So we know that in Illustrator, there are two possible attributes that you can apply to any vector path. One of them is a fill, and then as we discussed, one of them is also a stroke. Now, we didn't go into detail about each setting of the stroke itself, but we do know that there were certain basic settings for strokes. For example, if I were to click on this particular stroke right here and select it, if I look at my stroke panel, I see that the stroke weight, or the thickness of that, is 1 point. And I have no other fancy settings here. I just have regular plain butt cap setting. Miter joint is set for corners here, and there's no dash setting whatsoever. If I click on this one, though, this is the same exact path, but it has a different appearance because I set the stroke weight to 20 point, which is much thicker. In fact, all of these are the exact same path. If I go into outline mode by pressing Command Y or Control Y on Windows, I'll see that they're all just regular plain paths, each to have anchor points on either end of it, and that's all that it is. But the appearance is very different based on the stroke settings that I've applied to them. For example, this one right over here has a stroke weight of 10, which means that the weight or the thickness of the stroke is 10 points. But then I also have a dash line setting, and I basically have a dash setting of 10, which means that the stroke is on for 10 points. And then it has a gap setting of 4, which means that the stroke is turned off for 4 points. And then it goes back to a 10-point dashing. And if you don't specify any other settings here, it just simply repeats itself. It's as if you had done 10-4, 10-4, 10-4. Got it? 10-4. So what I have over here is a stroke that I've applied those particular settings to. But maybe times when I actually want to physically go ahead and maybe delete one of these particular shapes or these rectangles, I can't really access them. They're not regular physical shapes that I could click on. They're just stroke attributes. They're a type of a stroke. Let me show you some of these others that I've created here as well. This one here is a little dot pattern. Again, it's a regular stroke that I've applied if I click on it. But the difference is that it has a 10-point weight, but rather than a butt cap, it has a round cap. And it also has a dash setting of 0. This is a nice little tip, by the way. If you want to create a perfect circle for a dash, set your setting to have a round cap, but have a dash setting of 0. And that basically creates a perfect circle. Then I have a gap of 20 points to the center of the next particular one that's here as well. So then I have, let's say, this one over here, which just has a longer dash and gap setting that's here. And this one over here actually has alternating dashes and gaps. So it has there's a little short dash and then a 10-point gap. Then it has a 20-point dash and then a 10-point gap, so on and so forth. And then that way it repeats itself over and over again as well. But let's say now, like I said before, I want to be able to access or work with these as if they were actually regular objects, not just the attributes from a stroke per se. So the way that I can do that is I can use a command inside of Illustrator called outline stroke. Let's say select this one right here for now. I'll go to the object menu, I'll choose path, and then I'll choose outline stroke. And in doing so, you see that I no longer have a stroke anymore, but I've actually created a whole bunch of rectangles. This is similar to as if I had drawn one little rectangle that's 10 point by 10 point, and then duplicated it and made copies of it basically over and over and over again. I can do the same thing for each of these. I can go to this one over here and choose object, choose path, and then choose outline stroke, and again get individual ones. Let's say I decide that I want to delete every other one, for example, or every once in a while I just want to have one that I can just delete and work with. So in this way I could really go ahead and treat things as I need to, and that's the way that I can turn the stroke attribute, which is normally just something that you can't really physically work with inside of Illustrator, but now you can simply go ahead and convert them to outlines and then use them as you wish.